trigger warning for this podcast may contain explicit material, unlike every other episode we've ever done.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for pressing play today. In today's episode of Nerd Nostalgia, you're going to find Irvin, Bryan, and Trey with a special guest. We have Stephanie Howard from Traveling Ears Vacation. Find her on Instagram and also on her website, travelingears.com. And of course, please head over to Apple Podcasts, drop that 5 stars, tell your friends, family, coworkers about it. And you know the drill. Before we get started, here's a quick clip for you to enjoy.
Irvin, this is the sound of Trey and me leaving you a voicemail because you're not on the Zoom call for recording. So fuck you. Oh shit. I mean, hey, Sweet Pea.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Nerd Nostalgia Podcast. And today we have a very special guest from Traveling Ears, Stephanie Howard. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for having me tonight.
Did you like my campy voice? Did I sound like an announcer?
Trey, that's just your regular voice.
Yeah. You sounded wonderful, Trey. That was a wonderful introduction. Way better than Bryan could have ever done. So
Absolutely.
How come my lines are always the one that gets on the promo clips then?
It's because you're always spouting nonsense. That's why.
Exactly.
It's catchy,
Stuff,
but it's still nonsense.
I don't remember.
Literally.
Welcome, Stephanie. Thank you for joining us today. We are super excited to have you. I am going to let you just kind of talk about yourself to get everybody to get to know you.
Okay, pressure's on. I am Stephanie. I am a concierge travel planner, which basically means I am a travel agent, and I specialize in Disney destinations. That's a huge focus for us, as well as all-inclusive vacations down in the Caribbean, Mexico, do a little bit in Hawaii. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do. I'm a travel agent, and like I said, we've got a big focus on Disney. So Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, and then the Disney Resort down in Hawaii, which is Aulani. We're very much so immersed in the Disney world.
So I think that's the major reason.
Disney,
yay!
How can you not love it? Everything about it.
I have a huge confession, and I don't know if you know this about me. I've never been to Disney before. As big of a nerd as I am, I've never once set foot on a Disney campus.
You know, I think we talked about this a while ago, and we were like, you've got to go with your nephew.
Yep, nephews, yep.
Yeah. We were like, you've got to get down there. It'd be like their first visit and yours all at the same time.
Yeah, with COVID, I think it kind of threw everything out this year, but maybe for next year we could plan that out. But I think I want to say it was the plan for this year, and then those got scrapped early on. And so we're hoping that next year, and everybody will be a little bit older and able to appreciate it more, because currently the youngest is, I think he's 5, so he'll be 6 next year. So I think that's a perfect age.
Good
right?
age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're
6,
like really
34.
into everything. They can ride everything.
Yeah.
6 and 34.
Same thing.
Hey, I've got grandparents that go and they take, their adult children and then their grandchildren, and it's everybody's first visit. Like, and they're in their 60s.
That's awesome. So there is no age restriction. Boom. Perfect.
No, gosh, no.
They'll let you in, Bryan. But yeah, I've actually only been one time. We went to the one in Florida, so that's World, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do the full Monty. We just did kind of a quick view. We actually went for a competition and at the Wild World of Sports down there. And,
cheer competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And so, most of your time is taken up at the competition, so you don't really have all the time to spend. But we stayed on property. That was cool. And then we were able to, I think it was like the last day or so that we were there, we were able to go out. And I remember I got so sick. I came down with like the flu or something. So I just powered through. I was like, I can't miss it. Never been before. I was probably like 12 or 13 maybe. And I was like, I got to power through. And I'm just walking through, like stumbling around, high fever, just to give a shit. Just like, let's go.
And of course, that's what you remember now. You've got to do a redo with your kiddos.
Exactly. But yeah, for me, and we've discussed this, Ann and I have discussed it. I don't think it's time yet because Elizabeth's only 4, and then Quade will be 1 in
little
February. And so it's just basically carrying them around. However, we were going to have a friend that was having a wedding in Miami. And so we were just going to go ahead and like, well, we'll do it for Elizabeth, right? Because we're going to be in the area. Right. We'll just use points and go and, maybe spend like 2 days maybe and just make a week of that.
Hey, I know a good travel agent for that, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then COVID, right? So that got scrapped. We actually were going to call you. We were going to call you.
You mean COVID ruined your vacation? That's weird.
Can't believe it. Can you believe
so it? Odd. It's like the motto of 2020.
I know, right? Well, it was supposed to be in January. But yeah, it's been postponed pretty much indefinitely now. Like they just haven't rescheduled because it's like why to spend deposits and stuff like that if we can't even have anybody that comes.
Yeah, like, I feel that. I've got a lot of brides and honeymooners doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So on that topic, I know honeymooners, husbands, that kind of stuff. That's where my brain is going. Your husband, he helps you out with this. And how did you specifically get into this line of work? Like specifically into like the Disney travel concierge?
I guess the first time we took our daughter, our kids now are Paisley's 6, Parker's 3. They've been going since Parker was 7 months old, his first time. But Paisley, obviously she was our first to go. Bo and I went in high school, we went in college together. We went, married without kids. So when we went to take Paisley for her first time, we were like, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what to do with, a 2-year-old at Disney for the very first time. And so we actually reached out to a travel agent, and she just so happens to work. She also does business with my husband's grown-up job. And so she helped us plan our first trip with Paisley. And I just remember talking to her. We'd have these planning calls with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. You just basically get to talk about Disney World all day long. And at that time I was doing digital marketing, and I had been doing it for a while. And she was like, well, I think it's really cool what you do. I have no concept of social media and blogging and YouTubing and videos and content creation. She was like, I know you've been to Disney so many times, you just kind of needed help planning with the kid. But she was like, what if, you came on board and helped me with my marketing, and then I also help you kind of, ramp up to be like a travel agent. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Sounds like a ton of fun. Maybe I'll make enough to cover a vacation a year. And sure enough, it eventually just snowballed in the best way possible. And so had to just completely quit the corporate world altogether and basically take everything that I learned marketing for everybody else's business and start marketing my own. It was hard for about a year because there was a year of overlap, because being in the travel industry, we don't get paid until our clients start traveling. And so it takes, a good year before you're having that steady clients traveling, every single day, every single week. So yeah, that's really how I got started. Kind of put my marketing experience towards my own brand instead of somebody else's for once, and just have had a lot of fun with it. And being a mom with 2 little ones, it's easy to be passionate about, and it's Disney. So, it's really, for the most part, it's been a lot of fun. COVID and all of 2020 has been a huge learning curve, but I think it kind of came at a time where maybe I just needed the extra challenge for a while, because, I was just programmed, planning all these vacations, in my sleep. COVID hit, and it's here you go. This is your new job. You're actually semi a nurse, because now your clients have to be tested, and you have to tell them what kind of test to get and where to get it and what day. And so that's kind of how I got started. And like I said, it's just a ton of fun. And, business is definitely evolving and still thriving in a world of COVID, which is amazing. And I'm very grateful for.
I think that's awesome for 2 reasons. Number one, you live the dream that a lot of people want is, start off at the corporate job and then follow your dreams and start doing something that you love. And, you'll never work a day in your life if you do something you love, all that kind of stuff. And number 2, the fact that you're able to adapt so quickly to COVID, that was going to be one of my questions, how that kind of impacted it, but shot right through that and answered it awesome. And you're like, no, adapt, overcome. So that's
cool.
Cool.
There's no option, because, I've got, every year, 500 families looking at me what do we do with our vacation?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, it's kind of up to me to help make those recommendations, but also be incredibly, sensitive to the topic, because some people just aren't, comfortable traveling right now. Whereas others are like, we don't care. We just want to get out. Like, our kids are young, they're safe, they're not in school. Yeah. It's been a lot of adapting, a lot of changing, and a lot of like continuously staying on top of these new restrictions, and not really so much in regards to Disney, but I just mean travel restrictions in regards to different countries. Cause I do have clients all over the Caribbean right now that, it's all different everywhere they go.
Super interesting. I saw you recently came back from a trip from the Caribbean, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think I saw that on your social.
Did.
That looked
Yeah,
beautiful.
Jamaica. Oh,
yeah.
It was amazing.
That chapel overlooking the water. That's the video I'm talking about. Wow.
I called Bo and I was like, I know we're supposed to renew our vows in the Bahamas, but like, could we just move it here to Jamaica, please? He's like, no.
He's like,
Yeah. So we've spent a lot of time in Jamaica since August, and grateful for the opportunity for the resorts that I work with down there to invite us down and check out the resorts. And just, it's very helpful. And we've been to Disney twice also since August. And so it's just it's very helpful for me as a travel advisor, very helpful for my clients to see me there and for them to understand exactly what the experience is right now at Disney and the Caribbean at these all-inclusive resorts, because it is different, and I'm very transparent about that. I just think it's really kind of been the one component that has really helped keep business as usual as much as possible right now, because there's a lot of agents in the travel industry they're having a hard time with it right now, because they're not comfortable traveling, and we are. So we're capitalizing on it. We have a lot of clients that are like, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you and your kids in the park and y'all feel safe. So it's been a busy 5 months. Fun, but busy.
Good.
How do you come to figure out what your individual client needs or wants from a vacation experience?
So kind of the first step in the process is they go onto my website and request a quote, and adapted it over the years to really help narrow down the options. What time of year are they wanting to travel? What year? I've got people that are like, hey, we want to travel in 2024. And like, we can't plan 2024 yet. So the quote inquiry form on our website helps narrow things down a little bit, but it doesn't really get, all of the information across. It's just like an email that comes in to me. So I don't get to like meet the family, through that email. So usually I'll set up a phone consultation with some clients. Some are, they're busy moms, they're entrepreneurs, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're surgeons, and they don't have time for a phone call. So it's basically all through email or text at that point. They all have my phone number. They all have me on speed dial as much or as little as they want to. But the phone calls really just help paint the picture, like for the family, what they like, what they don't like. If it's a couple getting married, what their preferences are for their honeymoon. Do they want like a party theme? Do they want something more relaxing and secluded? If it's a Disney vacation, do they want Disney World? Do they want Disneyland? Because they're so different. And I recommend different parks based on different families and kind of what their expectations are. So the phone calls are really, really helpful. I help families all over the world, so it's actually very rare that I meet them in person. I've actually met probably more of my clients in the park or on cruise ships than I've actually met them, at a Starbucks or, in like a local restaurant or something, meeting them, which is kind of crazy. I think I've probably only had, cool. Yeah, like I'll usually tell them like, hey, I'll be on the cruise ship with you, or hey, I'll be in the parks this day. And it never fails. It's like an unplanned meetup. We'll just like randomly be at a beach on an excursion, or be walking through, where was I last time? I was waiting in line for Peter Pan's flight like 2 weeks ago, and I had like 6 clients in the park, and one of them was like, Stephanie. And of course we can't recognize anybody because we all have masks on. And so I'm like, okay, dark hair, 2 little girls. Oh, it's Shelly, So as much as I wish I could meet all of them face to face, a lot of times I don't. A lot of times it's just a phone call, and a lot of them don't want to do Zoom because they're busy moms with kids running around in the background. So phone call is really kind of the best way to really get a feel for the client, what they're looking for out of their vacation, and to kind of help them like narrow down all those options, because there's so many.
Do you send more people to World or Land? World
by far, but not just because, I prefer to send people to World, mainly because I would say most of my clientele is more like central to like East Coast. So World is just a little bit easier for most of them to get to, a lot in the South, and actually a lot up north. I do a lot of Ohio, Kentucky, New York, New Jersey. So, but I do get I mean, I do book a lot. I would say probably 85% of my Disney clients go to World and 15 go to Land. And a lot of times they're looking at me like, which one should we go to? And kind of based on like kids' ages and amount of time they have to spend there and how, are they driving, are they flying? That kind of helps determine which side they should go to.
What percent of your clients are fruitful people like Trey, and what percentage of them are kind of childless old men like Irvin and I? Trey, do you like that I called you fruitful?
I did.
It took me a second to figure out what you were getting at.
I was just waiting for him to go somewhere else. I really was.
I thought so too. I was like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
No bells. So, I mean, most of my clients are parents. I mean, probably 90% are parents, with kids. I do have maybe 10% that are honeymooners or 10% that are just, married couples or dating, and they just want to go, they want to go to like an all-inclusive somewhere down, Mexico, somewhere real quick and easy. So yeah, I would say most of my clients are parents. Most are women, but my male clients, I will say, are the easiest to work with. Like when I get a male client, I'm like, yes, like it's just, you guys know exactly what you want. You know exactly where you want to go, how much you want to spend, how long you want to spend there, what your kids want to do, what you want to eat. Whereas like moms are like, oh, I don't know. What about this?
Is it what the kids want to do? Is it what the kids want to do? Or is it what the dad is telling them that they're going to do?
So usually the dads, I think I enjoy that the most because the dads just like relinquish control. They're like, I don't know what to do. You do. And my wife doesn't want to do it. So like take it and run with it.
And that's
that like
feeling.
My favorite. Yeah. And those are honestly my favorite. And I do have a lot of moms that do the same, but those are my favorite because then, I feel like I'm not kind of like not walking on eggshells, but it's just kind of like, this is exactly what I would do with my kids at this age, And so it's like, we're going to eat here, we're going to ride these rides, and we're going to go take naps, and we're going to change, or we're just not going to have any plans, one specific day. Because while I am a heavily focused Disney travel agent, and there's a lot of itinerary planning and just, like minute by minute planning that could go into it, that's not my personality. I think it's not enjoyable when it's too overly planned. But I do think everybody needs structure. So for the most part, most of my clients are like a happy medium, kind of like, look, we know where we're going, we know what we're going to eat, but you don't have to tell us, which bathroom we have to go to and what time we have to eat a Mickey pretzel, because I have had a few requests like that. And I'm like, I'm honest with them. I'm like, you're a mom of a 2 and a 4-year-old, like, and 2 boys. You have no idea where you're going to be at 9:02 a.m. and nor do I when I'm not there with you.
After a vacation, do you do an exit interview with your clients to figure out what went well, what went wrong, what was stressful, what was easy, and then kind of improve your process?
I do. Yeah. So, and it's something that I'm trying to automate. So automation is one thing that is it's not impossible, but so as a marketer, automation is like our livelihood. Like we need everything automated. But as a travel agent, so much of it is personalized, especially for a Disney vacation. So it's something that is very manual, but we do get it out to our clients. And timing, I think, is key on that. Obviously, if they get back on a Sunday, we don't want to bombard them with that on a Monday. They're never going to respond. But yeah, I do send them what I call an experience transformer. And it's basically just like not a survey, but kind of like an open field form with different questions geared towards their vacation, but then also helps me as well. So questions on there are kind of like, what was your favorite part of your vacation? What was your children's favorite part of your vacation? Is there anything that you wish you would have known about this destination before you went? And those are really helpful because sometimes I've gotten feedback and I'm like, wow, I actually never even thought about that. So yeah, I try to get that out to everybody. Automation would be really nice, but we'll get there.
Maybe a little survey monkey action may be needed.
Yeah. Well, it's really quick and easy. It's an email template that I have that just goes straight to them. It would just be nice if like it knew, hey, the Howards are getting home on the 20th and this needs to go to them 10 days later automatically.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback have you gotten?
It's all for the most part, it's all very positive, especially right now. People are so happy to just be out of their homes. So like, as of right now, everybody is pretty much like, oh my gosh, this was the best trip ever. It was so needed. Other feedback that I've gotten like pre-COVID, just because a lot has changed this year as far as the experience, if I'm being completely transparent. But like pre-COVID, I would get something about transportation is like really one of the first things that confuses the most people. And it's the one thing that I try to get them to understand before they get there. And it still just kind of blows their mind. But I feel like that was kind of one of the biggest ones is, it would have been nice to know that we could have taken a boat here. And so, I take that personally. I'm like, I didn't tell them they could take a boat, And one of the ways that I try to work that into kind of our business model and how we kind of help overcome those is I've created an ebook. And so everybody that books their trip with us is sent this ebook, and it's basically everything that they need to know, but not every page of the internet. And it's in like bite-sized chunks, and it's very digestible so that, they have all the options of transportation before they go. They know all of the dining options before they go. So they can't, at that time when they come to me and they're like, we didn't know we could have taken a boat. I'm like, well, the book's only like 18 pages long, and it's not even a book. It's a digital file. But most people love that. They're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever because I don't have to spend hours on YouTube or reading blogs or stalking Instagram accounts. So yeah, so usually when I get that kind of feedback, I'm like, where can I add that in so that I don't get this feedback again? Or like, to improve that part of their experience. And so usually it comes back to something that could have been relayed to them beforehand. And that's usually when I go back to the ebook and I'm like, okay, this could easily be plugged in here and, kind of solve that right then.
That's what we have to deal with sometimes with kiddos and stuff. So. On the topic of feedback and everything like that, I'm curious, there's obviously several different Disney parks around the world, right? You mentioned you've sent people everywhere around the world. So I'm curious, how many of those parks have you been to? How many have you sent your clients to? Because I know there's like the one in Paris, right? You have one in Tokyo. Mm-hmm. What else is there out there?
Shanghai, Hong Kong. So I've only had one client go outside of the U.S. park, and they went to Paris, Disneyland Paris. And it's mainly because, as a travel agent, we can book anything, anywhere in the world we can book. But do we know it, And that's a really big thing to me is I've never been there. Eventually I will go there. I will hit every park all over the world. And I follow a lot of bloggers and YouTubers and Instagram accounts that's where they are. And, I know a lot about them based on that, but I've never been myself. And that's a really big aspect and a really big component of really knowing the destination. And so, so many people are just kind of like, y'all do Disney all the time. And I'm like, it's always changing. And so like, it's my job to know it like that. But, and I don't get a ton of requests for any of the parks over in Asia or Europe either. I get some, and I just, politely let them know, like, hey, like, it's really not in our realm of expertise. If you want to be my guinea pig, let's have some fun with it. But for the most part, they either probably just book on their own, which is fine. And eventually I do hope to kind of learn that aspect of it. But from what I've learned is most of the US based agents typically only book the US parks, which is Disney World and Disneyland. And then obviously they're not parks, but the cruise line and then the resort down in Hawaii. So yeah, obviously I've been to all of the ones in the States.
No, that makes perfect sense. I didn't know if you had any experience with it, but you're not going to eat Tex-Mex in Michigan, right? Like that's not what you do.
Yeah, no.
You don't eat any food in Michigan, right, Bryan?
Yeah.
I can attest to that. Don't eat food in Michigan.
You
drink the water.
You eat what they call food, but I wouldn't describe it as such. It's more like food shaped nourishment.
There you go.
Awful.
Stephanie, if you're from Michigan, I'm sorry that you're from that place.
No, I think that's why I find it funny.
For our Michigan listeners, we apologize. We're just joking.
Yes, we also apologize that you're from Michigan. Thank you, Irvin, for reminding me of that.
Oh, that's good.
Too funny. And so of the parks,
it's not good. It's the food in Michigan.
Of the parks and the resorts and the cruises that you've done, what is your favorite and what's the best like family one, do you think, in your opinion?
Oh, I know. And it's such a loaded question. And I always preface this because everybody always asks, well, what would you do? And I don't like to play favorite child between the parks. But I would have to say that Disneyland is I mean, that's my place. It's just, they're very different. Disney World and Disneyland, they're like stepsisters, and they have a lot of similarities, but the overall vibe and the overall experience is completely different between the two.
Yeah, dive into that. So, I'm curious, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, so Disney World it's massive. There's 4 parks, there's over 30 resorts, and they're adding more, and they're buying more land and building more resorts and more rides.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, you know, you can't walk, and you can walk to like 2 of the parks from like 4 of the resorts. But like, wow. Say I was staying on site at Disney World, chances are I'm not going to be walking to a hotel. It's going to be very slim. I mean, walking to a park from your hotel just because of the distance. And also Disney World takes a lot more of your time because you've got 4 huge parks. They're exhausting. And I almost always have my clients do a rest day where they basically don't do a park for a full day. You know, because you're traveling with little ones, and there's, you know, you're like, everybody's so stimulated. It's so much on the parent to remember everything when you're in the parks as it is, on top of just being a mom in general. And then they're tired and they went to bed late and they got up really early. And so, I mean, for a true enjoyable Disney World experience, you're there for at least, you know, 6 nights, with 4 full days in the parks at a minimum. So, you know, if you've got a full week, by all means, Disney World is a great option. There's a lot more planning that goes into a Disney World vacation. There's more character dining experiences. There's more restaurants in general. There's over 150 different restaurants on site. And then there's almost 20 character dining experiences kind of all over the park. So there's just a lot more planning because there's a lot more options there, which I love. And that's really why I got into this, was because, you know, when you think of a Disney vacation, there's all these different options and all these different combinations of how you can do your vacation. And so my goal is to simplify that, because nobody has time to do that. But for me, it's my job. That is my time. So Disney World just takes a lot more of your time. And a lot of people will say that Disney World is more stressful, just because there's a lot more logistics of getting around. Like, do I get on a bus? Do I get on a boat? Do I ride on the Skyliner? Do I go to this park or that park? You know, there's just a lot more options at Disney World. Whereas over at Disneyland, it's just like that, just like chill California vibe. The parks are, I mean, I could throw a rock from one park to the other. It's been a while since I played softball, but I could probably throw a rock and hit the hotels. One of the hotels actually connects 2 of the parks. So like if you're staying at the Grand Californian Resort, you actually walk out of that resort into California Adventure Park. Like there's no,
cool.
Like, yeah, you don't go, I mean, there is a main entrance as well, but if you're staying at that resort, that's the biggest benefit, is walking out of the resort directly into the park. So with little ones, that's probably my favorite, just because mine are still little. The rides are still great at both, you know, East and West Coast. But just overall, it's just a lot more laid back at Disneyland. Instead of there being 30 something hotels, there's only 3. Instead of there being 4 parks, there's only 2. As far as character dining, instead of there being like 20, there's 4. So just fewer options. It's less complex, much more go with the flow, which I think is, and that's kind of something that I try to establish with a lot of clients kind of on that first contact is what's your personality? Are you kind of like, you know, are you keyed up and you're ready to go? Like you want everything, you know, plan for a week? Or do you just kind of want to wake up, walk out of your hotel, walk 100 yards down to your, you know, the park, whatever park you want to go to that day, if you don't want to.
Yes, that one for me. That'd be my option.
Yeah. You know, go back to the hotel midday, change shoes, change clothes, get dressed for dinner, go back to the park. It's just, and it's weird, but the staff is different. Even though they're both trained very similarly, the cast members they're different. They're definitely more laid back over at Disneyland.
You've mentioned character dining a couple of times. What is that?
So character dining is basically a way for your children and your family to interact with characters without having to like wait in a really long line. So the characters are not sitting at the table with you. I know a lot of people are kind of wondering like, what do we do? What do they do? So it's in a restaurant, usually at one of the more nicer restaurants. And by nicer, I don't mean like fancy. Everybody is in park clothes and tennis shoes, and you're seated, and it is a seated meal for the most part with either, you know, like a kind of like a pre-selected menu where you select your appetizer, your entree, your dessert. Some are buffets. And then essentially the characters kind of make an appearance, come around the tables, interact with the kids, talk to them, sign autographs, take pictures, and they just kind of rotate the restaurant. And so depending on where you're dining at and which characters you're dining with, kind of depends on the experience. So like some restaurants, like for example, at Magic Kingdom, the Be Our Guest restaurant, there's only one character there, and it's the Beast. Like, he is the star of the show, and he's a really big deal, and that's like one of the prime dining experiences there. Whereas over at Cinderella's Royal Table, also a really big deal, also a really hard one to get, but you've got 5 or 6 princesses walking around at all times, pretty much. So, and then sometimes they'll do like a little, they call it like a princess processional, where like the princesses will kind of, depending on the restaurant, take the kids, they all kind of like line up and sing and dance around the restaurant. And then the princesses, I'll bring them back to, you know, to their respected tables. So it's just a really fun way. I mean, you've got to eat. So everybody gets to eat. If you're an adult, you're most definitely going to be drinking. And, you know, it's just a fun way for, yeah, me too, Irvin.
Yeah, we did thumbs up, guys. I know for y'all listening.
Yeah, I was shaking my head. Or not
yeah,
my head.
Everybody's like, yes, definitely alcohol, yes.
Yes. So it's just a really kind of fun, cute way for the kids to interact with the characters, and it kind of a more different setting than waiting in line, you know, just standing next to them, taking a picture in the park, signing an autograph. It's a little bit more intimate. You know, and you're getting a meal out of it too. So character dining is a huge part of the experience.
Trey, are you taking notes for this, for your future one? Because I hope you are. I didn't even know about that. So that's.
I don't want to say that I already know this.
Why would he take notes? It's recorded, Irvin.
That's true.
That's what we're doing right now.
This is true, Bryan.
Kind of the point of doing this, but yeah, I mean, like I said, we had started the process of looking into where we wanted to go, and of course we were kind of pigeonholed into world, right? Because we were going to be in Florida, so it's like, why
right.
not going to go to California and then go to Miami? Not doing it. So yeah, we were going to do that, and then we were also going to take my mom along, so it was going to be kind of generational.
Brilliant. Always take a grandparent.
Yeah, exactly. And it was kind of a requirement because she was going to watch them for the wedding. And so it was like, cool, she gets to go, and we'll book your ticket or whatever, and you just get to be chaperone, and then like Ann and I can go do cool stuff. But yeah, we started looking into that, and again, my son is so young, he's not going to remember it. He is barely crawling right now. So like, it's anything that we do would excite him just because it's something new. Right. Whereas my daughter is a little bit older, and, you know, princesses are her jam. Like that's right. Like, that's her deal. Right. So it was like, okay, do we go to, you know, Cinderella's castle and do like the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique? And then do we do,
look at you, Trey. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I looked, again, don't know nearly as much as you do, but like for the things that, you know, cause I was doing a very specific thing to research what would be for her. But before it got to the point to where it's like, okay, I need to call in a professional. Somebody ate.
I'm always here.
Whatever, you know, whatever happened.
Yeah, whatever happened.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was my experience, you know, 20 years ago now, was very fly by night. We're just going to go out and walk. But we were both, my brother and I were both older, so we could just kind of, okay, we'll just make it happen, you know. But we didn't have any of the fast passes. We didn't have any of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of waiting in line. There was a lot of just kind of aimlessly walking around, which is fine. It's not a bad
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's just not, I don't feel like you get the full experience because we just had to work around the other event that was going on at the time. And so I don't think we got as much out of it as we could have. So we'll need to
one day.
Yeah.
It's in your future.
Soon.
One day.
Yeah, soon.
Soon.
Well, one of my favorite things about the dads, I was telling you that it's so easy working with you guys, is I have these, well, I'll work with the mom, and the mom's like, this is absolutely the only time we're going. Like, my husband is not going to have it. This is one and done. And the husband is just kind of like along for the ride, doesn't want anything to do with it. And it never fails. As soon as they get home, the husband is the first one to call me. It's like, we had the best time because you guys are just like big kids. So when you're in your element, you're like, I got to go back.
That's why I want to go. I want to go.
So what is,
have to.
So we'll go male and female. So what is your favorite ride or attraction or thing to do at any of the parks across the world? And then what is Bo's?
I would say, and it's probably the same. I can call him in here though if we need to like feud it out.
And we are going to do a hard stop on the episode right there, guys. Sorry, I figured that's a good cliffhanger to find out what her favorite ride and what her husband's favorite ride is going to be. So on that note, we'll catch you all on the next episode. Remember, stay nerdy, my friends.
I need another drink. I'm out.
Well, you heard Trey's drink clank and Bryan's yawn, so you know it's time for us to head on out. Thanks again for joining us. We'll catch you on the next episode. And remember, stay nerdy, my friends.